I'm standing here to the northern point of the city of David. To the east, we have the Kidron Valley that was in fact the eastern border of Jerusalem. Behind it, to the east, we have the Mount of Olives. To the north of the city of David, we have the southern steps today that is known in scriptures as the Ophel, where Solomon built his palaces. And of course, that led the Jewish people up to the Temple Mountain in the time of the first and second temple. To our west, we have much archaeology. We have the Thyrimphian Valley that would be the western border of the city at that time that led water all the way down to the south and connected to the Kidron Valley, also connecting another valley called the Ben Hinnom Valley. Beyond the Ben Hinnom Valley to the south, I could see from here Hakeldama. Hakeldama, you guys know from scripture as Potter's Field, where Judah hung himself right over there. The first time that Jerusalem is mentioned, or Shalem to be exact, is in Genesis 14, when Abraham was invited by Melchizedek, the high priest of Shalem, and he offered him wine and bread. Shalem would be holy at that time due to the Gihon springs that exist down below. If you have water, you have life, and you could build your community. The thing is with the Gihon springs is that it would give its water in pulses. People believed that a god would give the people the water in pulses. Today, the archaeologists have found an altar. They found an area of cultic events, and we really truly believe that it connects to it. Also, the water would be led into a big pool before the time of David, before the time of Israel, and that would be a gathering place. To reach the water, they would have to go from inside the rock through a tunnel that led to the water. Unfortunately, the water supply would be outside of the city. We also read from scripture that King Solomon was anointed to be king by the Gihon springs, where the priest brought oil on a horn and anointed him right there. We also found the area where the olive oil would be produced. Isn't that amazing? Before the time of Israel, this area would be settled by the Jebusites, probably a tribe family coming from the south of Turkey. They settled in certain areas by the Gihon Springs, but also at the southern side of the city of David that was known as the stronghold of Zion. The capital of Israel was in Hebron for 7 years, but the people of the north, the tribes of Israel, wanted him to rule over all the tribes, and not only Judah and the southern area. So he moved the capital here to Jerusalem, conquered it from the Jebusites that eventually joined them. Now the city would exist down below, a small city that was known as the city of David. The city would be small, and you could see slopes on both sides. The king's palace would be on the high ground, protected with a wall surrounding it, and the houses where people dwelled below it. You could really understand the story of David and Bathsheba. If someone is bathing and the king's palace is above, he could see what's going on below him. Kind of like what's going on in this neighborhood opposite to the city of David called Silwan. Silwan taking the name of Siloam, of the pool of Siloam, that in Hebrew it's called the pool of Shiloach, from the word shalach, sent, the water that were sent from the Gihon springs all the way into the city. We mentioned that the Gihon spring leads its water to a pool. The pool is outside of the city's border, and that could be dangerous because when an enemy would come and attack, then you're in trouble. He could poison the water, and that could be devastating for the city's water supply. So we're here at the northern point of the city of David, and this is the highest structure that existed 3,000 years ago. We believe that there was a big tower called the Tower of Zion. We found archaeology from 3,000 years ago, meaning from the time of David. A big structure, a fortified structure from the time of David, It makes sense that this would be the palace of David. We could see ruins of structures on the wall. You see, after the time of David, the center of the city went to the Ophel area, that is known as the Southern Steppes, palaces, public facilities, and this area, the palace of the king, was not used anymore as the palace. They wanted the city bigger, so they built another wall at a lower level. And on this wall, they built houses and different facilities in a later period of time. Inside some of these ruins, we found some bulas, some stamps. Stamps that were used by officials when they sent messages. We found a layer of ashes that dates to the beginning of the 6th century. Could it be from the time of the destruction of Jerusalem in the first temple in 586 BC? Could be. The Mount of Olives is considered to be a very, very ancient cemetery for the Jewish people. For Jews have been buried here continuously for 3,000 years. From the lower hill, where we see these holes inside the rock, all the way up where the tombs are very visible to the eyes. Over there, Jews have been buried continuously for 700 years. The water of the Gihon Springs was led into a pool. A portion of that water was led through a channel to the Kidron Valley, the area that is very, very fertile. Now, they would use to grow their crops, and in the time of Solomon, that area would be called the Garden of the King. In the time of King Hezekiah, Hezekiah did a mistake and rebelled against the Assyrian king. He did that by not paying his taxes. So Sennacherib wanted to punish the coalition around here, and he came forth on a conquest, conquering cities along the shoreline. He was going to head up to Jerusalem. Knowing that the big force of the Assyrian were on their way here after destroying Lachish, King Hezekiah had to prepare for it. He had to bring food into a city for the time of siege. But there was a bigger problem, and that would be water. Water that would be outside of the city. It would be protected by a wall and a watchtower, but that wouldn't be enough against the army of Sennacherib. So what King Hezekiah did, he took two groups of workers and they started digging from within the rock. One starting from where the Gihon Springs exits, and one inside the city at the southern side. Both teams working very hard 24/7 until in a miraculous way they met. And when they met, they allowed the water to flow from outside of the city into the city to the pool that was known as the Pool of Shiloh. You guys know it as the Pool of Siloam. In the meeting point of the teams, they wrote an inscription. We found that inscription, but it happened when the Ottomans were in control over this land. And because of that, the inscription is held in the museum in Turkey. We tried to get that inscription back, tried to negotiate for it, but the Turks were annoying and they never allowed it back. We have here archaeology, walls from different periods of time. You know, we read about the kings of Israel, the kings of Judah, being buried in the city of David. Now, so many years have passed. We did find a facility of caves where it would make sense where our kings would be buried in a family structure. Could it be that it's over there? In John 9, we read about one of the miracles of Yeshua, of Jesus in Jerusalem, sending the blind man from the gathering area by the temple all the way down on the pilgrimage road to the Pool of Siloam. The blind man washed his face, his eyes, and he could see. Today, the Pool of Siloam is being revealed more and more. I mean, there is that area, but we really want to reach the base and bring it back to life the way that it was 2,000 years ago. Also, these days, they're revealing more and more of the pilgrimage road heading from the Pool of Siloam all the way up to the temple area. The city of David is amazing, and this could be a very, very good start for your tour in Jerusalem.